How you doing?
Doing good. I'll be back with my camera on in a minute, but I'm doing great. I'm doing great, and I'd like to see some familiar faces on here, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. And just to kind of hit the call off, guys, I got introduced to Eric when he got started. I was working up in Connecticut, and Eric's up in Connecticut. So I had the chance really to see like Eric get started and get to where he is now, which has been absolutely amazing. And we're going to kind of talk about some stuff that maybe kind of threw Eric off. So Eric, just to kind of hit the call off, talk to us a little bit about what it looked like for you getting started and just maybe some of the challenges you faced in the beginning.
I think, Marissa, getting started. So I left the automotive business. My W-2, my last year there was 275,000. I'll be married 26 years this August, and we have three kids, 18, 14, and 12. So it wasn't like I was really desperate for time. Money obviously is important. I needed the money. I couldn't go backwards a penny financially. But it was the things were starting to kind of break away at the seams as far as time was concerned here at the house with, I mean, literally, I just got home with my daughter, picking her up at school, and my wife was waiting in the driveway to bring her to her first activity. So I could, so I could see her, but also, still work, right? Because I knew I had this commitment. So, get my camera back on here. So, it was super important that I was able to put my family first on my calendar and have work surround that, right? Because we all get those same 168 hours a week. And, if you're going to sleep for 40 and you're going to work out or pray or do whatever for 20, you still got 100 hours left, and in that 100 hours that I had left, I wanted to make sure that I got everything for my family on my calendar first, but never issued less than 40, 50K a month ever in any given month.
Love it. And when you got started, Eric, I love how you talk about essentially, it doesn't sound like you came in for financial purposes. It sounds like you came in because you saw the financial opportunity could be there. But like you said, you wanted the time with your family and the flexibility and freedom. So I love to hear that because guys, everybody comes in for a different reason, right? A little bit similar, but most people might assume, hey, Eric, you're making, 275K a year. He's not interested in this opportunity. He doesn't want to hear about it. Right. But when push came to shove, it made sense for you because you wanted that time. So I love to hear that. I love to see it too. It's great to see. But with kind of getting started, Eric, everybody has kind of bumps in the road and we got to work through them, right? At any point when you were kind of getting started in your first year, what were some of the bumps that you hit and kind of how did you overcome them? Like if you're feeling off track, like what did you do?
Well, getting, hired by Eric Anthony and, recruited by Eric and Sean over the time, there was, there was really no one to call because you don't really call Sean for help from the home. It's kind of like, dude, you're the problem. It's not the client, it's not the lead, it's not their whatever. You're the problem. So, they always say, well, they put the lead in, you called them, you set the appointment, they let you in. If they're not getting coverage, you are the variable. You are the problem. So either made it too expensive or they don't trust you, right? So figure out which one it is and get it corrected. But I think for me, I didn't come into this thing with a war chest of money. When you live in New England and you have a mortgage and you have a wife and you have children, you have car payments, you have mortgage, you have credit card, gas, electric, blah 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 blah. 275 grand sounds super sexy, but there was many, many months when there was more months left at the end of the money, right? And in the car business, for those that are in the car business or do something maybe similar, the good months are good, but they're never great enough to make up for the real shitty months, right? So if you don't hit that bonus, if you don't hit that stair step, if you don't hit that objective and you don't get that bonus, the salary is just a salary. The salary was a third of my income at the dealership. 2/3 was based on performance. So I think in the beginning I pushed a lot. I had that commission breath going in. Even though my back wasn't against the wall, Marissa, I really put my back against the wall because I wanted this to work so badly. I wanted it to be 3:26 here in Connecticut and be able to pick my daughter up from school. And my son's last day of school today. He's a senior in high school, and he's going to have some friends over. So I wanted to be able to have that flexibility, but know that in between all these activities, it's work, right? Just work, right? I mean, it's just work. I mean, that's what we do all day, every day. And I'm obsessed with this business. And I think, with all due respect to the 20 or so people, whatever, honest, if you don't have some level of obsession over this, again, and I don't say this with any disrespect, you're probably going to fail. Okay. And I know I'm not mad at you. I love you all, even though I don't know you all. I only know Chris and Marissa, and Rami. I love you all, but I don't know you all. But if you don't have some type of level of obsession about this thing, you're gonna probably fail, right? If you're not have some level of obsession about working out, you're probably not going to be in good shape. If you're not obsessed about keeping your house clean, it's going to look like a shit house, right? So, if you're not good about raising your kids, they're probably going to, end up being on Dateline, murdering someone, So, like that's me. So like I always woke up early and I wanted to beat, Matt Walker and everyone else for the leads that were coming in, right? I wanted to get those first opportunities. I wanted to really put myself in a position of yes, and I may have said this on a call with you before, Marissa, and I apologize if I have, but I always wanted to be in that position of yes. I wanted to be able to say yes to lead opportunities, yes to staff, yes to office, yes to marketing, yes to travel, realize that 25% of the business is going to fall off the books, right? And that wasn't going to bother me or affect me. I was going to put a lot of time and resources and energy into people that I was recruiting, and not a lot of them were going to get through. And again, that's my fault. I think we've really got some good stuff dialed in right now, and we can talk about that a little bit on this call if you want. But those are some pitfalls I had in the beginning. I think, being too transactional in the beginning, because in the car business, how low can I get your trade? I want to steal it. How high can I sell you the car? Right. I want to hit you over the head for it. And then when you said yes to all those things, how much products can I sell you in the finance office? The gap insurance, the tire and wheel, the paint protection, the dent and this, that, and the other thing, right? Because in the car business, once you sign on the dotted line, there's no give backs. But in this thing, you got 9 months of give backs, right? And some of that stuff you can't control, because if the policy gets rescinded because the person lied to you, or God forbid they pass away in those first 9 months, you're going to get charged back, right? So how do you stay ahead of that? And I remember Matt Walker talking a lot about this. Be so far ahead of your cash flow that nothing matters, right? Be ahead on your rent or your lease or your mortgage. Be ahead on your car payment. Be ahead on your cell phone bill, right? Be ahead on all these little things, right? So if you do have, a bad day or a bad week, which will definitely happen, but if you work the entire month, it's impossible to have a bad month in this business if you run your 35 appointments every single week, right? And you always heard Zach Tverdowski talk about this. Hey, he would have everything scheduled out for 90 days. And he'd be like, hey, his wife, well, at the time it was a girlfriend, but now his wife and a mother to his baby. It was, hey, the next 90 days, this is what it looks like. There was some stuff that, had to go on the calendar, whether it was, a graduation or a baby shower or, a vacation or a date night or whatever. But those 30 appointments was going on the calendar. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I mean, it didn't make a difference. Now, obviously, we're in a little bit of a different world with how things are going with, telesales and stuff like that. But I mean, the number one producer in my agency for last month, and the numbers just came out this morning, right, Marissa? Her name is Precious Burnett. She lives in Greater Nashville. She did just under $125,000 issue paid last month. So well into being an Emerald producer. $99,000 was with Americo. And it was all pretty much all face-to-face, right? And I think a lot of it was referrals. And this isn't like her first month in the business. She's been with me for several months. So, but I think in the beginning it was being transactional, not, really focusing on the why and the beneficiary. It's all about the beneficiary. You should be talking more about the beneficiary with your clients than themselves, right? Because you need to understand what the situation looks like for when they pass away. But I think the client needs to know what that situation looks like, and maybe some things that they haven't thought about. Like if and I've said this on the training. I think I talked about it in Miami a couple of years ago. But like if your client's in Massachusetts and the beneficiary's in Detroit, and they find out that you passed away, then what balls start going in motion? What wheels start going in motion, right? How are they going to get here? How are they going to take time off? Do they have children? Are they going to take them out of school? Who's going to pay for that? Do they have any paid time off saved up? Or do they, how are all these things going to happen? And then once that person gets to your home in Seekonk, how are they going to deal with all the stuff that's in this house, right? And so like, oh, I didn't think about that. That's a good idea. That's not something I thought of, so I'm going to pause right there and I can recap on any of that stuff. Or we can talk more about stuff.
For sure. And I think you hit on a ton of great points there. The first thing being, you have to be obsessed with this business in some way, or you're probably going to work your way out of the business. It's just like anything else. If if you eat junk every day, you're obsessed with junk, right? If you go to the gym every day, you're obsessed with the gym, right? You have to have that healthy level of obsession. And then also, Eric, you talked about be so far ahead on your cash flow that you're able to say yes. I think that's huge. A lot of us come into this business because we want to make sure, like you said, we can say yes to pretty much anything we want to be able to say yes to. Now, guys, is this going to happen overnight? I mean, to be honest, it didn't happen overnight for me, but it was just working hard for a few months straight to build that cash flow to make sure that you are ahead of the game. Like, that's a real thing, right, Eric? Like, that's a real thing that happens every day in this business.
Yeah.
And I think we have to realize that too. So that was huge.
I think Marissa too, we all wake up. I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but again, I've already admitted, I'm at the obsessed level with this business. But I wake up and I look at my Americo deposits, right? I look at my mutual conservation opportunities. We all get them, I get a ton every single morning. And then I look at my Excel solutions to see where I'm at in class, right? All the people in class. And I'm texting and emailing people. I don't care where you live. If you're Hawaii or 6 hours behind, or if you're here on East Coast, I'm hitting that right away. But I tell people that up front, right? I'm like, hey, I don't know if we'll be a good fit because I'm obsessed about this business. And if you're not going to be obsessed about it, it's okay. There's plenty of other agencies that you can work with inside and outside of Family First Life. I just might not be the right fit to work with, right? Because this is how I feel about the business. This is how important it is to me. But I can't remember exactly where I was going with that. But that wanting to do, once I got this thing figured out, because I remember, in November of 2018, when I was watching Facebook, and I'm like, there's this woman, let's just say it's Marissa, or there's this guy, let's just say it Rami. Nothing special about these people. If they're doing 20, 30, 40 families a month, there's no way that I can't do it. No disrespect, but even at the time I was 48, I'm 51 now. There's no way that these guys are going to outwork me. It's just impossible. Now, I don't really have a lot of bad habits. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't gamble. I'm a dad, and at the time I was a football coach, but I love to work, right? So I said, there's no way these guys are going to outwork me, right? If working is the only deciding factor of who has success and who doesn't have success, I'm going to do better, even if I don't close a lot or whatever. But I knew it was going to be a consistent level of investing in leads. I remember one of my $25 Facebook Game Time leads. I don't know if Game Time's still around. And Andrew, I love Andrew. I don't know Andrew Pryor. I don't know if he's still around, but I remember getting a lead, and it was a $25 lead, and I called him. And the guy's like, "I'm not interested. I told you not to effing call me again." I'm like, and it's the first time I called the person. I'm just like, and he's like, "Don't ever call me back." I called him again. He blocked my number, and I was just like, "Oh my God, that's $25. Just smoke in flames, right?" But it's not about the one lead, right? Because we're only looking to help the people that are looking to get help, right? And sometimes it's hard. You can't really get too emotionally high or too emotionally low in this business, because when you do, it starts to unravel quickly, right? And if you get too emotionally high, like, man, I had a $10,000 Americo deposit today. I know it's Thursday, but it's 91 degrees and sunny out. I think I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb and hang out the pool. And then before you know, it's a Monday, and then on Tuesday you're getting chargebacks, and you didn't call your leads, and then the whole thing unravels, right? And on the other side, if you get too low, it's like, it's hard to sometimes to pick yourself back up, and you stay up late, you eat the wrong thing, You don't go to the gym. You don't dial your leads. You call through them 3 times. They say these leads suck. It's not the leads that suck. You suck. These people want help. They need help. What are you going to do to resolve them? Right. So I think and again, I didn't learn. I mean, again, I had a head start on this thing because I came into this a lot older than most people. But being at the office, every Monday and Thursday, when you were there with that gigantic pile of leads, I mean, literally not hundreds, thousands of leads. I'm like, there's no way that stuff's organized. But you had a system. And sitting in that gigantic room with no heater. But it was, it was me, you, Matt, and there's every once in a while, there was a few other people there. But being consistent and getting around other people. Now, these Zoom rooms, and I'm sure you guys have one. I go on different Zoom rooms every day. I was on Stephen Yee's earlier today. I always go on Frank Euphemia's. I go on Mark Mead's Zoom room. I go to FFL sales team. This woman, Sheila, is on there. So I'm always bouncing around to different Zoom rooms because even though it's a Zoom room is a Zoom room, it's not always, because sometimes there's a lot of people that unmute. Sometimes there's not, so if you don't like the Zoom room you're in, there's plenty of other options. You don't have to stay in that one, right? We're all independent. But I think these meetings that we have coming up are huge. I think they're really, really good. But go ahead, Marissa. What else we got?
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, you talked about investing in leads, right? That's that game time lead, the $25. You're like, boom, I just blew $25 out the window, right?
Yeah.
Now, Eric, when you have agents that, are getting started, right? I'm assuming that you start them on ILC leads. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think, when I have my first recruiting call with people, I'm like, other than your exam, your license, your E&O, maybe fingerprinting, the only other expense you're going to have is leads. Our most, popular leads are between $9 and $16 each. These are leads that usually are second chance leads, right? People have already had the opportunity to reach out to them. These are people that, people that fill out leads are lead filler outers, right? The algorithms and, Instagram and Facebook, that's how these companies are billion-dollar companies. They know who, fill out leads, right? So they've probably already filled out a lead. And your job, if you're doing things face-to-face, is just to sell the time, right? Keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it consistent, hit all the tie downs. And, I talked to this guy, Caleb. You know Caleb? I'm sure there's a few Calebs, but there's this one Caleb. He used to live in New Hampshire. That's how I got on the phone with him. He's down in Florida now. But all he runs is 3-month-old mortgage leads, and he never does less than $50K a month. And he hand dials them all. He doesn't have a dialer. He doesn't have an appointment setter. He doesn't have a power dialer. He hand dials them all and only does, now he's licensed in 19 states. He does everything telesales. But that's the niche that he's found, and it works well for him. I've that I've used Phone Burner for internet leads. If they're direct mail leads that are new, obviously those are $50 each. I hand dial those, but it's still frustrating when you can't read it or they don't have the good phone number. Even though I go to Fast People Search and I try to find a good number, sometimes it's challenging to do that. But it's consistent. And like, coming from the car business, like if I bought a $10,000 car, my goal was to sell it for 12.5, right? And then turn that, get that 12.5 and then go do it again and then go do it again. And I was talking to an agent the other day. He was frustrated because now we get paid on draft, right, Marissa? And
Yep.
doing some final expense. And he's like, I haven't received a paycheck in 2 weeks. I'm like, I got to do, but you're post-dating stuff, I said, but his issue paid was less than $10,000 for the whole month, and he's been with us for more than 2 years. I said, I don't think you're frustrated about being paid on draft. I think you're not getting a paycheck. You're frustrated because you're not investing enough in leads, right? Because if you're issuing paying 10 grand, that's $7,500 in advance before any balances that you have with the carriers. Let's say you're spending $800 a week on leads. That's 3,200 off to 75. So now you're down to 43 before chargebacks. You haven't paid tax. You haven't paid your rent, your car payment, your cell phone, your internet. Of course, you're going to feel tight and frustrated. There's no other way to not be, So, once you get on,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, you should never be going backwards in your lead. It's my son's orthodontist. Um, you should never be going backwards in your lead investment. It's just, it's a proven fact as a general statement, not for everybody, but when you're, spending money on leads, you're working the leads, right? And you're resolving the leads, you're gonna, recoup that. It's just, there's no way not to. And now with these drip campaigns with like Zippo and all these other, companies out there that have these campaigns, there's so many more tools out there from Marissa for when you and I first met each other. But
Absolutely.
it is important to be consistent in your investment, right? I mean, if you have a pizza shop or a Subway franchise or a car dealership, I mean, they continually reinvest. I mean, and I was never a business owner, before this. I was just, W-2 manager at a dealership for 23 years. So it was a constant reinvestment of the product, right? To, go earn, to go earn, right? So it's
Right.
super.
And you were able to take that same concept essentially and bring it here, and it made logical sense to you. And I love how you said you should never go backwards in your lead investment. In that kind of example of the agent that you spoke to the other day, I think that just speaks volumes, right? Like, like Eric said, if you're issuing 10 grand and you're full time here, like it's probably not going to feel good for you financially. Like you got to get the production up, and that always coincides with your lead order. If you've been here for more than 6 months and you don't have a reoccurring lead order, like we got to get you on one, because that reoccurring lead order is what typically is going to push you to an action that you're trying to find. And you try to solve it through like, oh, I'm just going to dial tomorrow, right? Eric, I'm going to dial in between my appointments. I'm going to do A, B, C, D. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the inventory you need, you're not going to have the result. So I think that that's huge, just to kind of hone in on that conversation. So thank you for sharing that, Eric.
And
And then just
when it comes to consistent lead campaigns, right? If and not, lead campaigns are hard to find, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. There's Plum, Mail Pro, Arm, Mailco. There's dozens of them, and there's a new one that's popping up every single day. But to not set up a real-time lead campaign for the specific zip codes that you want to run business in, that you can pause anytime you want, that are exclusive, that are not going to get resold or recycled, like why wouldn't you at least have at minimum $300 committed every single week? What is that, 27 leads, or 3 times, because they're like, let's call them $10 each, right? So that's 30 leads, right? 30
right.
leads a week. Why not at least get 30 leads a week? Worst case scenario, get your 300 back if you can only close one, right? But there's so many people like, I didn't get rid of all, I didn't go through all my leads from last week, so I'm going to dial those again. Obviously, you're going to dial those again. But for your mindset, your psychology, and the people that are out there looking for insurance today, we need to have that. So again, and this is all about, I think this Friday's or tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Friday. Next Level Live with Sean is going to be really, really great. How to run a profitable business. And I don't know what he's going to talk about. But, I would have to imagine he's going to be talking about leads. And if you don't like the leads inside the Integrity Lead Center, then do your own marketing, or go get them from, Smart Financial or EverQuote or, Bang Bang, or all these other companies that are out there. I mean, there's so many companies, right? But, Sean Allah says, don't bring me a problem without a solution, right? Problems are okay, but if you don't have a solution, what are we talking about, right? So, and there's too many, top producers, and a top producer is 30K or more, right? There's no confusion. That's $30,000 as a top producer. Anything less than that, you're going to have a complaint or a whine or a bitch about something, right? So, but there's too many top producers in this company that are too willing to just share with you what they're doing to not have success if you want it, right? If you don't want it, it's going to show. And again, I apologize if you're in that grouping, but you have the means to get out of it, right? I never wanted to go back to the car business, and I never will. But, that was like my worst case scenario if I just totally couldn't figure this thing out. But it was so important to me and everyone's here at different seasons of their life, right? So, with my son going to college next year, one of my daughters going to high school, like I didn't want, it was so important to me to get this thing figured out and go through the pain and the suffering and the sacrifice and the dedication and, and taking advantage of the 168 hours a week that we get. That I want, and I'm still figuring it out every single day. I live about an hour from Uncasville. I just got back. I shared that with you, Marissa. I was down there this morning for the day, working on stuff. But it's I think you have to be obsessed with it. And if you're not, it's okay. But don't expect these amazing results without amazing sacrifice and dedication. It doesn't. I mean, this isn't like the Powerball. You got to work this thing. But when you do, and Sean said this on a call, you might have been on it, Marissa. This business, or maybe Mark Mead said it, this business is amazing, for those that do it correctly. And it's extremely punitive for those that do not. And there is no middle ground.
That's huge. And Eric, one thing you said is like, essentially, if you want the opportunity, it's here, right? If you want to buy leads, like there's leads to be bought, right? If you want to work, like there's things to do to work and get better, but you have to want that, right? And then like Eric said, the close proximity, like if you like real-time lead campaign, any campaign, like Eric said, there's an array of them out there, something automated that's just going to automatically hit and push you to action. That brought me from being a 20, 30,000, 30,000 family producer to going to being, 50, 60, right? Like was just upping the lead flow a little bit. And oftentimes that's what's going to crack the code. So like Eric said, being, healthily obsessed is important, because if not, it's going to make it really easy for you to fail.
Yeah. So
and Eric,
yeah, go ahead. Ask that question. Then I have a comment.
Yeah, for sure. No, I was just gonna say, and like with kind of piggybacking off that, with summer sales conferences happening, going on, now and over the next kind of week, how important is it for people to kind of to get there for themselves?
I mean, we all left convention, 4 months ago now, right?
Right.
February, March, April, May. Yeah, 4 months ago we all left convention, right? So, I mean, if you're doing telesales, again, I'm sure you've been outside of your house. It's summertime now almost, but maybe now it's a good time to get back in front of some people that are in the business. If you're in the field, it's good to get around some other people. I think at this sales conference, Marissa, which you're a big part of, we'll have more people speaking as top producer trainers than are inside my hierarchy, right? So from all the producers that are in New England, right? So I think it's just so important to get a fresh perspective on what's going on. If you're really pumped up on this business, go and share it. If you need to get picked up, go get picked up, right? There's no excuse one way or the other. Talking about leads again, just hitting back on that again. In the signature line of Sasha, Nicole, Laura, who's about to have a baby, you guys see those BPL national availability spreadsheets? You guys get those, right?
Yes.
So I would challenge all the people on this call, if you haven't looked at that sheet in the last 72 hours, to go look on that sheet. And again, I'm obsessed, so whatever. I look at them every day, and I found 4 mortgage campaigns in Connecticut that were available. Right now, again, mortgage isn't going great right now because interest rates are high, supply is low. No people aren't really refinancing, stuff like that. But that guy just locked. It wasn't me. That guy just locked down. I found him for him. I'm like, hey, Bob, that's not his name. Hey, I just found these. Why don't you go take a look? He put the email, CC'd me on it. Boom, boom, boom. Locked them down. Now they're his. Right. How many leads do you think how many campaigns and leads do you think I personally am contracted for through BPLs right now on a monthly basis? What did you? What's
20?
186 leads a month, right? So 90 in New Haven, 50 in Hartford, and 46 in Middlesex, Holland, and Wyndham, right? So do I run them all myself? No, but I do run a good percentage of them. And then for new agents that are coming in, or I resell them, but like this is the business, guys, right? So again, if you really want to get out of this thing, what it can provide, it's all out there for you. But you just have to be like, your tentacles have to be out, and you got to be oozing into every nook and cranny that's out there to figure this thing out. Kind of like running business, right? So if you're still doing things face to face, or a hybrid and portion of these things face to face, every appointment you go on, do you have 5 door knocks stapled to that lead? Okay. And do you have those addresses already set up in Road Warrior? So if you do get disappointed at your first appointment, or it's a quick sale, a quick no sale, you get porched, it's a one leg, whatever the situation is it even possible for your attitude to go down? Or if you like, oh, thank goodness, because I have those 5 door knocks that I've already loaded into my Road Warrior that I'm going to take advantage of now before my next appointment, right? And again, maybe you all do that. If you do, fantastic. But those are the things that, elevate you to the next level, right? Are you asking for referrals every home? Have you watched that Tobey and Andrew Taylor YouTube on how to get referrals, which is amazing, right? Are you looking for children's to do children's whole life policies? If you've been in the business 6 months, are you doing your 6-month reviews? Obviously we're going to do annual reviews every year, but 6 months, let's check in, what's going on with them, right? Are you checking your working list, looking for pending lapse policies, right? A lot of people don't do that. So, again, when you start doing 40, 50K plus, then you can get help with this, right? So you can have staff saying, hey, these are the things that I don't want to do or I don't like doing. And then these will help you, and if it costs you 1 policy a week to have staff, you're easily going to pick up more policies than that on an annual basis. That's going to more than make up for it, right? I heard you talk about the Rogue IMO recruiting platform. The one thing I didn't hear you mention, hey, here's my son. Say hi.
Hey,
That's what a graduate wears after he graduates.
congratulations.
No, it looks sweet. I love it.
Thanks.
I love it.
Love it too.
Is the 4-minute phone call. You guys have that recording, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That
All right.
and that's really dialed in too, guys.
Okay, cool. Be safe.
I don't know if we're going to Enfield or Manchester.
Enfield, please. I don't like Manchester. Love you. I got to get back to this call.
Okay.
You have that phone call recording from Sean?
Yes, we do. The 4-minute.
Yeah. So definitely want to use that for sure.
And Eric, if you don't mind, because you've been hopping on too, will you talk a little bit about that recruiting blitz that Trey does and kind of how you've seen value?
I think for me, like personal, my personal take, my personal value is it for 2 hours on a Sunday. There's no football right now for those football freaks out there, which I'm one of. Okay. For 2 hours on a Sunday, whether you're in Hawaii time or you're in Eastern time, it's like, you know what? It's 7 to 9 here in Connecticut, right? That's the times, right? So it's actually, I like the time for us. Typically my kids are exhausted from doing whatever. My wife's going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go do my thing. So I'm sitting on the couch, and it allows me to kind of go through my contacts and go through some old messages and, post some stuff. So it allows me to start to dial in and start to focus, for the week ahead. And, it's for when you're watching, and some, there's been anywhere between 5 and 20 people on there, right, at a time.
Yeah.
Like Anthony, who I don't know, make these cold text messages and cold phone calls, and hearing, Trey's like, Luke Skywalker with those things, right? Obi-Wan Kenobi with what he's, okay. And you're going to put a lightning bolt emoji, and now you're going to put a thumbs up emoji. And I'm taking that stuff and I'm putting it in, right? So, again, and then again, this is about recruiting. All right. So when I started selling life insurance, my goal was never to sell life insurance forever. Okay. To be real transparent, if you guys want to write these numbers down, my goal was to get my agency to $1 million a month. Okay. And at $1 million a month, that would have been an advance of $750,000 a month. Okay. And just because shit happens and the world falls apart sometimes, I took another $150,000 off of that. So that was an advance after chargebacks, after the advance of $600,000. And if I had an override between myself and the entire agency of about 10%, Marissa, that would have been a $60,000 override for Eric Schmidt and my family. Okay. At $60,000, I figured Carrie and I could figure it out with $60,000 passive coming into the household. That's with me not selling life insurance. Obviously, I have to pay tax on it. But that was my mindset. How fast can I get to $1 million and then chop equals 60K to me? Okay. Because I didn't want to sell life insurance forever. And really my goal was by the age, and I've been 51 for a couple of months now, but by the age of 51, I didn't want to have to do it in order to buy groceries. Right. But my family understood, right? I told them, when I first started, I told them, hey, the next 90 days are going to be crazy. I'm probably going to sleep here at home every night, but you're probably not going to have access to me at all, right? For the first 90 days. So I'm going to have to get this figured out. And I listened to Dominique Rogers dial. I listened to Jamie Euphemia dial. I spoke like they spoke. I paused when they paused. I voice inflected when they voice inflected. I asked tie down questions like Luke Bohach trained on, right? And a lot of people are like, who's Luke Bohach? But, that's where I got, hey, one last question, Marissa, before I let you go. Are you good at keeping the appointments that you set? Good. Yeah. We are see you tomorrow, right? That's where I got that. I got that from Luke, right? So, there's a lot of tools out there. I think, I can tell you countless nights on this couch right here in my living room that I fell asleep listening to, Mike Killamet on phone calls and listening to Zooms and listening to training sessions, just letting it all sink in. Right. But again, I think it comes back to that obsession about the business.
Absolutely. And I think just how you came in with a goal, I think that's huge because you had something you were actually pushing and aiming towards. And when you got there, you're still moving forward, which I love to see. And also how you talked about, you set the proper expectations for your family in the first 90 days. So your wife knew what to expect. The kids knew what to expect. Nobody was confused by your actions and behaviors. It was simply what you said you were going to do. Right. So I love that, Eric. This call has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for hopping on. I know I took a ton of notes.